What's up, guys? Welcome to the line change. And in this video, we're going to be asking who will play physical roles for the Vancouver Canucks in the 25-26 season. Obviously, with the trade of Dakota Joshua, they traded out a very physical presence for the Vancouver Canucks. Obviously, the Canucks acquired Evander Kane earlier on in the offseason. He brings a physical presence. But with them shipping out Joshua, it makes people wonder who will be that physical role for the Vancouver Canucks this upcoming season. Will we take a look at some candidates, or rather potential candidates that could fill in for that role? But before we do that, as we always do, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to my sponsor, Gassy Jack Art, maker of that incredible artwork you see there behind me. And you guys can check them out yourselves at gassjackart.com. You can also find them on Instagram at gassjackart. So let's go ahead and dive into this topic. Another article from our friends at Canucks Army. This one also written by Stefan Roget, who asks the same question: who will play the physical roles for the Canucks in 2025-26? As the NHL moves in a more physical direction, following the trend of the back-to-back Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, are the Vancouver Canucks moving in the opposite direction? It's a fair question to ask given the change in personnel over the past two seasons. Since the outset of the 2023-24 campaign, the Canucks have parted ways with all of JT Miller, Nikita Zadorov, Ian Cole, Carson Soucy, Vasily Podkolzin, Noah Juulsen, and most recently Dakota Joshua, among others. That's an awful lot of physicality out the door, and the Canucks haven't exactly made a concerted effort to replace it. That leads us to wonder if, for the lack of a better term, the Canucks will be physical enough in 2025-26 to keep up with the changing pace of the NHL. We're going to take a look at a few different categories of physicality in an effort to see where these new Canucks are at after a summer of change. First one is who will do the hitting for the 25-26 Canucks. Let's start by saying that Vancouver isn't exactly short-handed when it comes to throwing hits because they've still got all-time single-season record holder Kiefer Sherwood on the roster. His 462 last year was 156 more than the next NHLer, and Sherwood doesn't exactly seem like the type to slow down. But beyond him, the Canucks were the second hittingest team in 24-25 with 2,213, trailing just those aforementioned Florida Panthers and their 2,446. Sure, Sherwood was responsible for more than a fifth of them, but that's still a lot of hitting in general. It's hard to see them replicating that second-place finish, however, when three of their top six hit throwers have departed. That's Joshua with 193, Juulsen with 101, and Miller with 92. There's some incoming content to consider. Evander Kane was fourth in playoff hits this past season, despite missing the entirety of the regular season. He should be able to replace some of what was lost. So too will the younger Elias Pettersson, now that he will be given more minutes and responsibilities as a sophomore. A few other call-ups will contribute. Atu Ratu only played 33 games for the Canucks last year, but threw 80 hits, giving him the fourth highest hits per 60 rate on the team. Archie Bains and Linus Karlsson also ranked in the top 10 of that chart. It does seem that the Canucks have perhaps lost a bit of physicality on their scoring ranks, meaning Miller and Joshua primarily, while staying relatively similar in their overall ability to hit. Of course, this is just comparing 24-25 to 25-26 roster. If we go back to 23-24 and the days of Zadorov, we can see that the Canucks have probably taken a couple of steps back physically over the past two seasons. Now, there are those who will tell you that hitting is overrated, and that's true. It's dramatic, sure, but it's something that a player can only do when the other team has the puck. As is usually the case, it doesn't hold a candle to, say, puck possession in terms of overall importance, but that doesn't mean that hitting is unimportant. It can still make an impact, and especially so in the postseason, which the Canucks hope to return to. Something that could definitely get better at, Sherwood aside, and something they might look to as a real positive component in any player they might be considering acquiring. Let's take a look at who will do the enforcing for the 25-26 Canucks. Now, if hitting is considered overrated by some, fighting should be even more so. It's a dying art in the sport of hockey. Last season, there was a total of 297 fights in 1,312 games, marking a full-year low. The entire playoffs just saw 2 actual fights. All the same, it's still a part of hockey, and it's one of those things where it's better to be able to and not need than to need to and not be able to. Few things in hockey are more demoralizing than needing someone to step up for the team, and finding that no one is willing or able. Never mind that the Canucks are said to be on a bit of a revenge tour with Jason Dickinson and the Chicago Blackhawks coming on October 17th and Yakov Trenin and the Minnesota Wild on November 1. The Canucks fought just 19 times in 24-25, and they really spread out the responsibility. Get this, the Canucks' first 9 fights of the season each featured a different combatant. First went Miller, then Teddy Bluger, then Connor Garland, then Vinny Desharnais, then Joshua, then Juleson, then Dan Deninen, then Tyler Myers, and lastly Derek Forbort. It wasn't until Miller fought Kevin Ball on New Year's Eve 2024 that the Canucks picked up a second fighting major. Miller would wind up tied with the team lead with Forbort at 3 fights each. The only other Canuck to fight multiple times were Joshua and Garland. Really, though, it's something the team did by committee in 24-25, and there's no reason they can't do so again in 25-26. Now, Evander Kane is a key addition here. He's only fought 5 times over the past 3 seasons, but that's with the whole season off, and that's still pretty frequent by modern standards. More importantly, he's won the bulk of them, including against some capable opponents like Andreas Englund, Brendan Dillon, and Brandon Duhaime. With Kane, what Kane could provide is like Joshua and to a lesser extent Desharnais, that theoretical nuclear deterrent, player who can and will fight anyone in the league when the need arises and handle themselves just fine. Something every team wants on hand, and Kane keeps the Canucks level there. So long as he can stay healthy, that is. Beyond Kane, the Canucks have largely the same collection of occasional scrappers available, and your Blugers, your Forbarts, your Sherwoods, and the likes of the younger Pettersson, who carried himself very well in his first ever NHL combat. Ideally, Garland doesn't hold second place in the fighting ranks for a second season in a row, but hey, try telling him that. The Canucks might not be as intimidating as they used to be, especially not when considering the brief Zadorov era, but they should be just as capable of sticking out for one another as they were before. Now let's take a look. Who will do the agitating for the 25-26 Canucks? In many ways, the 24-25 season was the quote-unquote year of the rat. The notoriously dirty Panthers won their second consecutive championship, and they did so by picking up the ultimate rat, Brad Marchand, along the way. As other teams inevitably followed the trend, expect the entire league to get a little more in your face. For 25-26, can the Canucks keep up in the agitatorial market? Here it could be argued that the Canucks have actually improved. The physical players they lost over the past year, namely Joshua, Miller, and Juleson, were all more of the straight-up, honest brand of physicality. Joshua and Miller in particular were always far more likely to be agitated than to do any agitating. Not so with the incoming Kane, who takes pride in getting under the skin of opponents. The same goes for EP25 on the blue line, and 2 of them alone should make the Canucks harder to play against. The Canucks drew the sixth most penalties in 24-25 with 306. All of their most annoying players, Garland, Sherwood, Ratu, and Carlson, are still on the board for 25-26. We'd also love to see Niels Höglander return to that more sandpapery style we saw early in his career, when he was driving current teammate Forbort absolutely mad. And let's not forget how Tyler Myers has this weird habit of making himself the chief public enemy of a random fan base at least once per season. In a league that is increasingly playing to its agitators, the Canucks stand ready to do plenty of agitating of their own in 2025-26. Yes, we're a long way from the days of Matt Cook and Jarkko Ruutu and Alex Burrows, but we're perhaps trending back towards that territory, and if there's one thing the Canucks can usually be counted on to be, it's annoying. So there's that article. Once again, another great read from Stefan Roget, and it really makes you wonder who will play physical roles. Obviously, I mentioned, and the article itself mentions Evander Kane. Kiefer Sherwood obviously is a lock. Perhaps maybe even Niels Höglander. I could see Niels Höglander getting into the agitator role, perhaps. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. And as always, if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you want to stay up to date on all your Vancouver Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. You can find and interact with us on social media. You can find us on Facebook. Just search The Line Change to find our Facebook page. You can find us on Instagram at The Line Change. You can find us on X at Line Change Van. You can find us on TikTok at the TLC Podcast. You can also find us on Blue Sky at The Line Change. And feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. If you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, feel free to give us a follow, as well as rate and review us. It is, of course, greatly appreciated. That's going to do it for this video. As always, let's go Canucks, and I'll see you guys in the next video.